DNVR Draft Pod. We are so back, baby. What a Thursday. What a Thursday. We've got full-blown Showdown fever here at DNVR. And in general, just an epic week of college football. To break it all down, a less epic week for your Denver Broncos, which makes the college football week that much more epic because we're so intrigued by all the talent we're seeing on Saturdays. What a premise. I'm joined by my guys, Justin, Michael, Schwan man over here, Rams, Buffs. It's all going down. Producer Alyssa behind it all. How are we doing, fellas?
It's rivalry week.
Yeah.
I'm doing fantastic. Oh, man.
We're all hyped up for this rivalry week. What a week prior. It was all about Texas being back.
I think this is probably the first time I've unironically said that phrase in 15 years, maybe. I mean, they're showing against Alabama last year. You could tell that things were kind of going in the right direction. I mean, they've been solid in the trenches. We knew the talent that team had on paper coming in. We said, you know, as far as ceilings go, this team is as high as anybody's. They could be legitimate national title contenders. The thing is, that program, it's just been such a letdown for so long. We had to see it. And to go into Tuscaloosa and to take care of Bama and really be in firm control for the majority of that second half is saying something, because, you know, I understand that this Bama team is maybe not some of those teams of the last couple years. I mean, they certainly don't have the talent out wide. In the trenches, they got their butts kicked, but Bama doesn't lose like that at home, and Texas manhandled them.
I mean, I said it on this show when they hired Sark. I think this is the coach that could finally get them back, and it looks like it's finally starting to happen. Quinn Ewers was phenomenal. That arm is for real. Texas has some guys up front. They just reload at running back. I don't know who that was. I don't have his name, but my God.
Yeah.
And then the wide receivers on the outside.
Brooks.
Texas is very close to being back.
That's what felt like they were truly back, was the way they dominated up front. That was impressive. I mean, you would have thought the roles were reversed, and it was the Bama front that was beating them up like that. That was an incredible, incredible game. Quinn Ewers, as advertised. I'm going to start there. How good is this 2024 class, man? Wow. Not just like pure talent. I was just thinking, like, I can't remember any class where there's as many guys whose deep ball I love the way this class has guys whose deep ball I love. Obviously, Caleb Williams in that regard is like upper of the upper echelon. Quinn Ewers has
that ball he threw to Xavier Worthy. I mean, just 55 yards roughly in the air, and I should have gone back and verified, but it was about from midfield. That shot that he had, and just drops it in a bucket right over the DBs.
Oh, and it floats in the air forever,
runs under it, touchdown. I mean, it doesn't get any better than that.
For me, it was the last touchdown, the one to Mitchell. On the post route where he, you know,
they've been the more accurate one. Yeah.
They were abusing that safety in the middle of the field and just reading him.
That might be the one I'm talking about.
It was just a floater. The guy almost overthrew him. I mean, it was a beautiful ball. There was no chance the corner could have made a play on that. That arm is spectacular, man.
Spectacular. It's as advertised. It's why some had him as like the highest rated quarterback recruit of all time.
I think he's just the highest rated high school recruit of all time, period.
Which is insane. He goes to Ohio State, transfers out. CJ Stroud is the reason he transfers out.
Mm-hmm.
And then, you know, I mean, he gets injured in that Bama game last year.
Changed the dynamic of the season.
Absolutely. And even this year, like that first week, he did not look great.
It wasn't sharp. I mean, they struggled to move the ball. Was that against Rice or whoever it was?
Yep.
I mean,
Right. And then he comes out and absolutely put an absurd display. I mean, his arm is wild. Not the biggest quarterback prospect. Not maybe a guy who's going to live on the short to intermediate. But if he slings it like that, I mean,
he feels kind of like an old school quarterback. Like everything
100%, man.
Now, especially with the combine, all these quarterbacks, you know, the underwear Olympics, everybody's jacked and all this. And I'm not saying that there's not a benefit to that, but he does kind of feel like that old school quarterback. I'm going to go out and throw for 350, 4 touchdowns, and then tonight I'm having a burger and 12 beers. Although
1,000%.
that is his thing. I guess he's on the diet. He's like down to 197 or something like that.
Yeah, that's a bit of a concern, honestly.
That almost feels too small.
It's way too small. That's actually lighter than what Bryce Young measured in at the combine.
Yeah, but that was... I would say that was a friendly listing for old Bryce Young.
And I mean, you talked up Sark, Jake, but I mean, those wide receivers, the tight end Jatavion Sanders, he was really impressive. What a
Dude's
move
a
tight
freak.
end that is. Yeah. All-time freak. I mean, really spectacular. And then you guys both mentioned Xavier Worthy, the big wide receiver who's been hyped up coming into the season, and then Adonai Mitchell, who had 2 touchdowns in this one. They were really impressive, man. This was an incredible game. Sark has that offense working well, and now all the pressure's on him, because this happened last year, right? We were all high on Texas. We thought they'd run through the Big 12, and then it was Kansas State and TCU who ended up playing out for the league. So it's fun to talk up Texas, but they got to actually do it. Sophomore edge rusher Ethan Burke, number 91, ate up the Bama left tackle in ways that I can't remember the last time a Bama left tackle was abused like that.
I mean, this might age badly, but Alabama just doesn't look the same to me. It started last year in the secondary. They were getting abused by Tennessee. Stetson Bennett was throwing all over them. Quinn Ewers just threw all over them, and they just don't have the guys to protect. They don't have the quarterback right now to make the throws consistently on a down-out basis. They're still Alabama. They're still going to recruit at a high level. But, man, the competition is so much tougher than it used to be for them.
Is that part of it? That, yeah, they can recruit at a high level, but they're not the top dog. That teams like Georgia and former assistants like Sark at Texas have come in, diluted that crop just enough, and there's not quite those blue chippers that he once had. Because it does kind of feel like that on defense or on the O-line even.
Yeah, I mean, they're still, pulling in top 5, top 10 recruiting classes annually,
yes.
so I wouldn't get too bold here. But I mean, honestly, if anything, I think it's a testament to Saban all those years that he was able to maintain and sustain that program, despite the fact that every year I'm replacing my OC, I'm replacing my DC. 3 of my position coaches went on to become coordinators or head coaches elsewhere. Teams don't do that. Like that continuity aspect within a staff is so huge. So many good head coaches over the years. You see it. They lose their key guy. The whole thing falls apart. Year after year, Saban's been able to maintain this. And is it the Bama before where the gap between them and everybody else? No, it's not. Georgia is the top dog in the SEC right now. And even some of these other schools, LSU, they're right on par with them. That said, and I mean, take it with a grain of salt, I am a Bama guy. Maybe we wait till they lose to a good team before we pile the dirt on Saban. Like
a bad team.
They lose a thriller. Yeah, lose to a bad team. I mean, the LSU game last year, Texas. It's not like they're getting beat by some schlocks.
That's true. Just one more thing. I mean, this is just a young team.
Tennessee last year.
They talked about the tells they were giving. Caden Proctor, the left tackle, or whoever it was, Texas was able to tell if it was run or pass because of him. They were able to tell because of the running back and the depth he was lining up. Like, it's just not a fine-tuned Saban team right now. They're very young, very inexperienced.
It's really kind of wild to see, and they haven't had this kind of deficiency at quarterback in a long while.
Well, and I think that's going to be the biggest thing that Bama's going to have to figure out here quickly is their team identity was supposed to be, we're going to play defensive football, we're going to run the ball. They didn't establish themselves in the trenches, and obviously you see the athleticism that Jalen Milroe brings to the table. I mean, he's got home run hitting speed. He might be the fastest guy on the team when he hits full stride.
Yeah.
But his inconsistencies as a passer really limit what this offense is capable of doing, particularly when you're in a situation like you were Saturday night when you're playing from behind and, you have these DNs crashing down off you and they're just sitting back in coverage and they're make a play, beat us.
Yep.
And he just wasn't able to do it. And I'm not saying he can't. I'm not saying that he can't get there. But when you play the type of schedule Bama has, you don't have a ton of room here to kind of go back and forth. And it wouldn't be shocking if we see somebody else in there in the next couple of weeks. I'll say that.
Wow. Tyler Buckner.
We'll see. He might be in the doghouse. He came out and was saying they practiced poorly before. That's like anti-Saban 101.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Tommy Reese was getting roasted, Bama's OC. You wonder what's going on there.
Mm-hmm.
You really wonder.
Mm-hmm.
It's also been a while since they went OC from college and not like a retread who is just
Right.
a
Bill
head
O'Brien
coach.
or a
Yes.
head coach.
Lane
Yeah.
Kiffin.
Yes,
Yep.
exactly. I want to see what Texas is to make the playoffs right now. What my odds I can get on that are.
I guess like plus 200.
Plus
see.
120.
Wow.
Interesting. I mean, Texas.
Are they that
have,
back, Justin?
look,
You
they
made a
have the
face.
best win in college football thus far, but
No doubt.
I mean, the Big 12 is going to be competitive. Like, it's going to be, I want to see how they handle it when they're down 10 to a wonky Kansas State team or, whoever else ends up being in the mix in this conference.
Yeah. I mean, look, man, this is why I hate preseason rankings. We don't know who's the top 5 team, who's the top 10 team in the country. And this is going to be the win that basically runs Texas's resume up until the Big 12 title game or when they play Oklahoma or something like that. We don't know how good Alabama is right now. We don't know how good Texas is, but this is the win, I guess, of the season so far. And it's going to carry them a long way.
It sure is. I really think in a lot of ways it comes down to quarterback. And I think you'd have to go back to some of those like Clemson, Alabama national championships where like Deshaun Watson looks so much better than the quarterback he was facing, where like Bama was that outmatched behind center. They're plus 500 to make the playoffs. Kind of sneaky good odds on that.
It is, but
I got to see that
So now
offense
the
do
conference?
a lot more.
yeah.
I don't know. The thing is, the SEC might just be having the most down year
Probably
of the
15
last
years.
decade. Yeah,
Yeah,
I
at
mean,
least.
it's not a great conference. Georgia's not going to be tested, so we don't know how good they are.
I don't know if it's not great or if we just have parity finally. I mean, I just feel
You
like
don't
there's a
have
couple
top
teams.
dog necessarily if Georgia's a bit of a pretender.
Well, and Georgia's just so hard to gauge because
Yeah.
their strength of schedule is so lax
Really
that it's like
hard.
we really don't like. They might go
Really
undefeated, and I still am not 100% sure I'm going to have a gauge on like just how good is this team. I mean, I certainly am not going to doubt Kirby Smart. You're back-to-back winning national championships. The talent that they have year in and year out, he's mastered. Drawing up the false narratives. Nobody believes in us and all that stuff. The Kirby Smart specialty, but I'm going to have to see Georgia prove to me that they're not the premier program in college football before I dethrone them. I'll say that.
I agree.
That's pretty solid. Lots of other really good performances this week. First couple weeks, I'm really focusing on quarterbacks. I see we've got Broncos fan in the chat talking about how we'll blow the first round pick. I don't know. In this class, maybe even the Broncos can't screw this up.
You also might be able to get a really good quarterback in the second if this class is as deep as we
No
think it
kidding.
is.
Yeah.
No kidding. Or wait a year. Tyler Van Dyke and Miami. Is Miami back? Why is no one talking about that?
Because Texas A&M
They're
sucks.
frauds. Yeah.
They do. All those top recruits don't really look
Like I
good.
put Miami, I think, at 23 in my poll after this week. I gave them the top 25 because they did beat a team who has some talent. Obviously, they have blue chippers on that Texas A&M roster, but I don't know. I mean, I feel like Texas A&M has become the Texas of are
Exactly.
they back? And it's like I don't know. It feels like they're due for a letdown any week, and they almost always deliver immediately.
And they're always preseason ranked top 25 after not doing shit the year prior.
Yep,
Every
that's true.
single year.
It's the recruiting rankings.
Really looking forward to head coach Bobby Petrino in week 12.
Van Dyke was looking outstanding. He was
Yeah.
throwing dots. He's looking big. He's looking athletic. He kind of had a regression year last year.
Yep.
Looking a lot better. You wonder a little Brock Purdy-esque maybe.
Ooh.
Huh? Caleb Williams on fire. Boy, was I wrong about Stanford covering that spread. He had like unreal throws on the move. That cannon of his is something
Cannon.
special. The way he throws it on the move, I think I think he's the best prospect I've ever studied in that regard.
Wow.
He does things that shouldn't be possible. He makes throws that you're sitting there being like, no, what are you doing? And then he puts it on a rope while falling down,
insane.
going out of bounds, goes over 2 DBs' heads, hits his receiver in stride, and it's a 60-yard gain. And you just, I don't know. I can't doubt him anymore. He does things and he starts running around, and I'm like, well, most guys I wouldn't want to see them do it, but he's gonna pull it out, and just time after time. It's like watching a created video game player play D1 football. I mean, it's stupid.
Yeah.
Insanely enough, they're looking better than advertised to me, this USC team.
They're so explosive. I mean, I'm still not going to give them credit defensively yet. I know they only allowed single-digit points.
I want to see him play Utah. I want to see him play Oregon State.
I want to see him play Colorado.
You have to deal with somebody in the... Yeah, that's fair.
Like, defend an actual NFL quarterback and NFL wide receivers, and then we can talk about USC in the playoff.
Prove you're not going to get manhandled in the trenches.
Yes.
Yeah,
yes.
absolutely. And I mean, look, Stanford might just be really bad.
Look, man, they got absolutely abused in the portal. They lost their best offensive lineman. They have a new quarterback now because McKee's in the NFL, new coach, new system. They don't have the transfer, the ability to maneuver through the transfer portal like most other schools. It's the same issues CU was facing before Coach Prime got here.
Yeah.
It's they got a long way to go, and they're in the ACC now, which is insane.
I don't
It
know
is
about
insane.
quite the same in terms of academics, but
Well, I mean, CU wasn't allowing kids in because
I
of their
know,
restrictions. But yeah,
Jalen Daniels for Kansas. We almost forgot about him.
Rock Chalk. Dude, Kansas is fun.
Yeah,
They are.
Kansas is legit fun. He's good. Dare I say he's better than Jaden Daniels, who's at LSU?
I think he's a more consistent passer.
I think he has a more special arm.
and he's just got that. I don't want to say it factor. He just makes more
He
plays.
does.
No, he
but
does. That is what he
He's a
has.
playmaker.
Yeah.
It's a great way to put it. Yes.
He just makes more plays. Like that's what it. When the play breaks down as a quarterback and you're able to turn something into nothing, like that is special, man. Not everyone has that.
Yeah.
And you can tell the guys who are a cut above the rest when it comes to that, and he's up there.
Newton, Illinois' top interior defensive lineman, one of the top in the entire country, a guy the Broncos could target in the first round next year, was hunting him down all game, and Daniels made just enough plays to overcome it. Really, really impressive performance in what was one of the best defenses in the entire country last year in the Illini. And then Shedeur Sanders against Nebraska was kind of what we let off the podcast last year with that impressive performance against TCU. Last week, sorry. Yeah, not last year. To some extent, while maybe less consistent, I thought more impressive against Nebraska. Some of the stuff he did on the move was just phenomenal.
He is him. He is so poised, so locked in. The way he just handled how Nebraska blitzed him just over and over again. He got sacked 8 times, kept getting back up, was never scared in the face of pressure, stepping in the throws, making plays with his legs. The 2-point conversion, that's the Heisman play of the year so far, if that play counts. That was an unreal play.
That was. There were so many unreal plays. I mean, and his composure does just look different to me on the field.
Yeah, I mean, he looks like a guy that's ready for Sundays with the way he runs an offense. I mean, we were saying that after TCU, just with the way he's commanding that offense at tempo. Week 1, I think, was really impressive. The fact that he distributes the ball to a wide variety of playmakers. You don't ever see him just lock in on his first read and fixate on a guy. Obviously, the fact that he's not turning the football over, that's huge.
Yep.
And he's making winning plays, and it's been fun to watch, from just a college football standpoint.
Sure.
Obviously, I'm not a Buffs guy. I'm not sitting here being like,
course.
go Buffs, great touchdown. But, purely watching football, it's like, damn,
Yeah.
this dude's the real deal.
100%. Yeah, it's just been a little different. And Mel Kiper came out, talked about him as the 3rd quarterback in this class. I was, watching a well-off video, and Coach Prime was talking about it as this year he'd be 3rd off the board. Next year, he'd be the 1st quarterback off the board.
Yep.
Which, of course, presumes Arizona doesn't have that top pick and Caleb Williams doesn't stay in school another year.
And that's where that whole situation gets wonky is with NIL and everything with some of these guys. I mean, Quinn Ewers could come back if he wanted to. It's not like Texas doesn't have the money to make it happen.
I'm excited about that part of
Shedeur's,
this draft season.
He's gained like near $3 million in his NIL valuation. He's the top NIL valuation in the country now. And if he keeps playing at this level, it's going to keep going up. And it's going to rival a first-year rookie quarterback salary. It's insane.
Well, that's the thing. That's what I'm really curious to see. And we've talked about this a million times on the draft pod, so we don't have to go into this. But at what point does the NFL say we have to get rid of these rookie scale contracts because guys are staying 5-6 years in college? And obviously COVID was part of that too. But
the NIL is going to force the rookie contracts to be adjusted.
It has to.
It has to.
It makes no sense if guys are making more money to stay in school. That's a system that doesn't make sense.
No, it doesn't, and it really exposes how the NCAA and NFL, by working the way they were in prior years, was really to both their benefits.
Yeah, it's why the NFL,
ultimately keeping money out of the players' pockets.
It's why they're never going to support like the XFL or the USFL or any of these leagues. They have their own minor league system, and it's set up perfectly. They are not financially responsible for any of it. Mm-hmm. They don't have to worry about any of it, but they get to evaluate. They get great access. It's the perfect setup for them.
It really is. God, I love this. So quarterbacks. There are many. We'll get into a couple other risers and then a preview of a week 3 slate that maybe isn't loaded, but has some decent matchups. Actually, the next week is going to be...
Week 4 is going to be fun.
Amazing.
Holy cow. Is that a good one? But first, of course, college football is here. Football is here. Broncos, Buffs, Rocky Mountain Showdown in town with the Rams. You can get it all at Game Time. Our homies, the experts in last minute tickets. Their customer service is awesome. Their app is phenomenal. They specialize in last minute tickets. And you can sign up now. Download that Game Time app, create an account, and use our code DNVR for $20 off your first purchase. Who knows? We'll be at the Pids game on Wednesday, a few of us as a company. $20 might pay for both those Pids tickets right there. Rocky's still playing baseball. You might be able to go there, shout some mean things at NL West foes. Whatever floats your boat, you can do it right now at Game Time and use that code DNVR, please. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code DNVR for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest prices, guaranteed. And leave us a thumbs up too, please.
Hit that thumbs up. Guys, I don't know if... For some reason, sunglasses are trending today. Weird, but take on the sun with gear that's built to last. Our friends at Shady Rays have you covered for the warm weather ahead. Premium polarized shades at an affordable price. Shady Rays are an independent sunglasses company, but what they do is make a world-class product that's just as good as any expensive pair we've ever worn. Durable frames, extremely clear optics for outdoor adventures. And I'm not just saying that either, guys. I have legitimately sensitive eyes. From the eye doctor, am not supposed to be out in the sun without sunglasses. You put Shady Rays on. Some sunglasses, they're too dark. You can't see anything. Shady Rays, they take away the glare. They just make it a nice, perfect, comfortable, I was going to say temperature, but that's not the right word. Anyways, Shady Rays, they are sick. If you lose or break your pair, even day one, they'll send you a brand new pair. You can return them for free within 30 days. Again, no risk when you shop. If you want to try them on in person, head over to the Park Meadows Mall. Full stop shop for all things Shady Rays. And of course, like I said, you can always return them within 30 days. No risk when you shop. Exclusively for our listeners, they're giving out the best deal of the season. Go to shadyrays.com. Use that code DNVR for 50% off 2 or more pairs of polarized sunglasses. Try for yourself the shades rated 5 stars by over 250,000 people.
And shout out to Breckenridge Brewery.
Let's go.
DNVR's official beer. We've got tons of it at our tailgates. We got a Buffs Rams tailgate on Saturday. We have Broncos tailgate on Sunday. Ooh. Come out, hang out with us, drink some Breck brews. It's always a good time. Come to the DNVR bar if you can't make it to one of those and watch the game with a bunch of diehards. We've got tons of Breck brews on tap in cans. Check out their beer locator at www.breckbrew.com to find a Breck brew near you.
I think people will know my mood on Sunday based on whether if I'm wearing a Bradley Van Pelt jersey to the Broncos tailgate or not.
Yeah, that's a fair assessment.
BVP 11 Broncos jersey?
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
Ooh.
man. Oh, man. That's a classic right there. Okay. Other notable performance from the week. This Zachariah Branch guy from USC is insane. Add him to a growing list of 2025 prospects we've got an eye on. Harold Perkins, Travis Hunter, Zachariah Branch is in the mix. Ethan
Garbers?
Whatever I just said, the Texas edge
Oh, no,
rusher is.
Okay.
Who'd you have?
That's the UCLA quarterback. Don't listen to me.
He's just throwing out Ethans at me. This kid, though, is insane. He's very Reggie Bush-esque.
He's doing things in the open field that we haven't seen in a long time.
He's like returned a kick for a touchdown every single game he's played this year.
He's unbelievable, man. He's got legitimate Tyreek Hill-ish speed. He is just a burner, man. You give him a lane and it's over. He's gone.
I like truly can't believe how good he is.
I think he's the fastest guy I've seen this year.
I mean, Dylan's up there too, but
Dylan Edwards is fast as hell.
Yeah. How about, speaking of speed, how about Tyreek Hill just like disappearing from NFL secondaries?
When their guys weren't even in the frame.
He's like reached another level.
He has a gear that is just like illegal for pro sports. It's insane.
You have to shadow him over the top. What are you going to do otherwise? Leave your man out there in single coverage against that?
Yeah.
Got Waddle opposite him.
And that's the thing. Like, what do you do?
Crazy. I do enjoy seeing Tua do well because
I do too.
I think we were fairly high on
Yes.
Tua. Like, who wouldn't have been, right? Like,
Bro, if it wasn't for the
pre-injury
concussions
was
and the
the chosen
injuries,
one,
yes, he would have had a great year last year. We'd be talking about him like we talked about Herbert 2 years into his career. Like, the fact that he just got hurt and wasn't able to put together a full season last year,
Well,
people
you saw
held that
it
against
before he
him.
got hurt. He was awesome for
He
those
was.
first 5 games or whatever it
And
was.
he just comes back and balls, man. He's so dope. I love Tua.
he
Cool
was
name,
great.
too.
Joe Alt, one of the top left tackles in the draft, had a great run blocking display against NC State. He's a big guy, but man, he's an athlete. He moves well. Another guy I'd keep an eye on as a Broncos fan of like potential first round targets next draft.
They got to solve that. We've been talking about that since the draft pod was invented.
Bro, no, truly.
Literally.
There's
Yes.
clips of me and AJ like raging over the Bulls pick on the draft pod from 2015. Like, it's insane. It is at the inception of this podcast. We've done it weekly for like 7 years, and they still haven't figured it out. I beg you, please do something.
Sean Payton will do something, and
We can't go on like this, guys.
that's what he came here to do, though. He came to build this team from the inside out to fortify the trenches, and man, it just feels like George Payton is a dead man walking these days.
This roster does not
It's not
have
good.
the depth
No.
to compete consistently.
No, not even close. And, we were talking about CB2 quite a bit in the offseason. It seemed like Broncos country was just happy to be like, oh, no, I saw a good game out of Damari Mathis. Keep it up. And it's like, it's the beauty and the curse of a lockdown corner is they're not going to go to him much.
Well, and it's never been harder to evaluate preseason performance because half the teams are playing their players and half don't. Half the teams are just straight up punting on preseason. Half the teams are treating it like the Ravens.
Good point.
Like, what do I
Good
take
point.
away from? Yeah, he had those 3 picks in preseason. That's great. You made some plays. Certainly deserved to be on the roster, but I certainly hadn't seen enough to feel good. Like, this is our guy opposite of PS2, especially with the corners they've moved on from the last couple of years. It's just like we're going from established veteran presences that had proven themselves on multiple teams to a guy who had a couple of nice moments in the preseason.
Yeah. I mean, I was a fan last year. I thought he got kind of unfairly picked on for that Chargers performance on Monday night where he let up the 4 pass interferences, but they got to figure it out. He's got to play better or they got to rebuild this secondary, basically.
Well, now with the Stearns injury, you don't know like what happens there. You were hoping he could potentially slide in, play some nickel for you, play over the top too with Kareem getting older. And this is just what used to be the biggest strength of this defense has very quickly become very thin.
This is a roster in transition. They don't want to admit it. This is going to be a rebuild. They're going to get a new quarterback. They got to rebuild the offensive line. They got to get pass rushers, and they need more help in the secondary. That is a rebuild, brother. Need more receivers too.
Yeah, I mean, how are they at the premium positions? Corner we just talked about. Quarterback, I don't think we need to talk about. I think you know quite well. Offensive tackle, we've just mentioned. Wide receiver, thin as ever because injuries get you, and you hope Mims can be, edge rusher. I think we feel good, not great about that room. It's just a lot of this is how you build a modern NFL team, is these building blocks right there, these premium positions. And there's a lot of question marks there. The other name I have on our list of standouts from this last week would be Xavier Weaver, standout CU wide receivers, back-to-back weeks, been really good. And I'd lead right into the Rocky Mountain Showdown preview from there. So you can give us the scout report on Weaver, Jake, and then Justin, I think we can go right into why that wide receiver group for the Buffs should be kind of one of the keys to this game.
Xavier Weaver is a guy who has played a lot of college football. He was at USF for a long time. He was teammates with Jimmy Horn the last 2 years. He outproduced Jimmy Horn the last 2 years in terms of touchdowns, receptions, yards.
Right.
He was at USF going back to 2019, only had 1,700 yards in those 4 years. Comes to Colorado, he's already got 288 on 16 receptions. He only has 1 touchdown. He should have broke 2, at least in that Nebraska game on screens. He's a complete wide receiver. He can do it all. He can run routes. He's got the speed to take it to the house. He's got great hands, great body control. This guy is... What a decision, and I can't be happier for him for making it to Colorado, playing it with Shedeur, and just improving his draft stock tremendously. He may not have been drafted. He stays at USF. So
6'1", 180.
Yep.
So decent size. Yeah, it is one of the better parts of this transfer world is you can go from a guy who just wouldn't have done anything to the next level to go to getting your chance, going to another P5 program, or going from the G5 to the P5 and then blowing up like that.
He's a guy that, and this will probably get taken the wrong way, but he reminds me a little bit of Michael Gallup on the Cowboys, former CSU receiver, just in terms of Gallup would do some things where he would manipulate his body in air and make catches along the sideline. And he had a couple of catches in that TCU game where I was like, oh, that looked like Gallup in 2017 against Nevada, or, he's a stud. And Gallup, obviously Gallup, an NFL receiver, number 2, number 3 NFL receiver.
Right.
That's a solid spot to be in, especially if you're a guy like Xavier Weaver, who, you go from being fringe, 7th round, 6th round, probably undrafted free agent, trying to earn your way onto the team to, now he looks like a guy, and he's a little bit older, so that might hurt him a little bit with the draft. But maybe like a top 100 pick.
No, absolutely. That's kind of the buzz right now. And from a scout perspective, I love that comp. That's a wide receiver that checked off a lot of boxes in Gallup, size, speed, hands, route running, body position, what have you. Maybe not one of those is like elite.
No, but he can do everything.
That package is really nice, really appealing.
He's only 23
from an NFL standpoint.
He's 22 right now. He'll be 23 when he gets drafted next year.
It's fine.
Yeah, he's
Did
fine.
I ask you that, or did you telepathically?
Justin brought up the age, so I went and looked it up.
Just being a 5th-year guy.
I love that. I think that's kind of one of the keys to victory is how much can that CSU secondary hold up against this wide receiver group that's got depth.
Yeah, CU's stacked at receiver. I think if you go into this game expecting to win a 17-13, Alabama 2007 LSU type game, you're not going to win.
It's probably not happening.
It's not going to happen. But, you've got to learn from Nebraska to an extent. Nebraska, I thought, did a really good job of tackling in open space and preventing some of those big plays that really killed TCU. The outlet passes to the running backs that instead of going for 15, go for 60. You've just got to limit the damage as best as you can. One of the things they really struggled on against Wazoo is getting off the field on 3rd down. They stopped the run. Wazoo really couldn't run the ball on them, but every time it was 3rd and 9, 3rd and 10, 3rd and 11, Cam Ward's running around there making plays. And with what you've seen out of Shedeur, obviously that's alarming. He's a guy who's patient. He's going to get the ball to whoever's open. He's not just going to, try and force it to the one guy over and over again. If you're CSU, you can't get torched over the top consistently. You've got to be able to make tackles. And I mean, they've got good size at corners. CSU's got a couple of corners that are both, 6 foot plus, 200, 210.
Size is there.
They move well. But, I mean, this is a real beast that they're facing. The thing I think that gives you some hope if you're CSU, at least in terms of this specific matchup, is that, you see CU gave up 8 sacks a week ago, and the defensive line is probably the greatest strength of this CSU defense. Mo
Big
Camara, Grady Kelly's getting a lot of love at the interior with Van Wells potentially being out at center. That would be an area I would really pay attention to, is that interior. Can CSU get pressure up the middle, get in Shedeur's face, and be disruptive? Because if he has all day to sit back there and pick you apart, you're going to be in for a long night. Big time.
And from a scouting perspective, I think the key one-on-one matchup, Travis Hunter on Torrey Horton.
Of course. I mean, Colorado State's got to score points. He's their best offensive player. He's got to be able to make plays. Travis is probably going to follow him. I mean, why not? He's their best receiver. You kind of shut him down. You shut down their offense.
They play a lot of man. It's what I assume they'll do, right?
Yeah.
Like if I'm CU, that's the card I play. Is okay. I mean, they've got one of the better wide receivers in the country. I'm going to put the corner we've got, our number one corner on him.
And
that's
you're facing a quarterback who's making his second career start. So man up. Play sticky coverage. Make him throw a tight window throw
to make plays.
Exactly.
And, I mean, it will be interesting to see in terms of how aggressive CSU is with the passing offense. I do think they're going to have to take some shots over the top.
That's a kitchen sink game.
More than anything, they got to get that ground game going, and it's got to be a combo probably of Fowler Nicolosi making plays with his legs like you saw Jeff Sims do. But they've got to find a way to get Avery Morrow and Kobe Johnson, combine their names going. Those are two very talented running backs. Mm-hmm. But, I mean, outside of Kobe Johnson's kickoff return where you see his speed, we didn't really get a chance to see that. That's some of the stuff CSU's got to do. You see the way that they get the ball in Dylan Edwards' hands. I'm sitting there in the press box in Fort Collins being like, get Kobe the ball in space.
Yep.
Let him do something.
Right.
I mean, Colorado, that's the one thing that they really need to work on is the run defense. They've allowed 220-plus yards both weeks against TCU and Nebraska.
It was better against Nebraska, though. Like, it wasn't like they were going for 10 yards a pop. It was just big runs that kind of inflated the stats.
Right. Exactly. The long Jeff Sims run down the sideline, the long Trey Sanders run against when they played TCU.
I thought they tackled a lot better.
They did. They were able to get to the backfield, too, and make some plays and generate some pressure.
Yeah.
So,
no doubt. I think the interior of both trenches is going to be a key to victory. And CSU's ability to be multiple, to run the ball with the quarterback runs.
You got to limit their possessions.
Yep. And then how much of an advantage will that advantage at the skill positions on the perimeter be for the Buffs?
And that's the big question mark at this point. Like, CSU has talent defensively. I don't think they're what they showed against Washington State. That said, I mean, this is an even tougher assignment, so it's tough to feel like great going into it. It's essentially like, well, I struggled on, the 5K, but now I'm going to try and run a 10K.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
It's a rivalry game. You never know what to expect with those. It's a new quarterback game, and it's a game the Rams have had 2 weeks to prepare for. Lots of unknown factors with a setup like that. 24 seems about right to me, especially considering the Buffs are at home. I'm going to lay those. I think the under is the more appealing play here.
Yeah, I mean, in general, like, these are wonky. In a rivalry game, I don't know if I ever want to touch a spread of that size just because weird things can happen.
Yeah.
I said this morning, I think CSU can cover. I do think they're talented enough to at least keep things interesting, especially if they can do some of the things that I've talked about. So I do think CU can cover. I'm guessing Jake will take CU to cover.
Yeah, I mean, just too high-powered, I think, offensively. Travis was, even for his standards, a little quiet last week. I think Travis will be able to feast on both sides of the ball. I think we may have a chance to see Cormani out on the field this week as well. So I think it's just too much talent, really, for CSU to overcome.
It's going to be a fun one. Game day in town at 8 p.m. in Boulder this Saturday. Going to be amazing. Both these guys, obviously, in attendance. You guys going to sit close to each other in the press box?
I requested it. Yeah.
I hope that our seats are next to each other, but we'll see.
My draft boys. You're the best. Never change. Penn State at Illinois. Trench guys like us love this one. Olu Fashanu, the left tackle from Penn State. Whew.
Big test for him.
Big test for him.
This is one of those games that like reaffirms the opinion, or it's everyone being like, well,
right. Or this is the one where it's like, oh, you like Fashanu? Have you seen that Illinois tape? You know, like it's gonna be one of those. And you know, Drew Allar, like this Penn State team starting to get some buzz. They're 14.5. That hook on the road.
If I could get 13.5, I'd be all over it. But that extra point terrifies me.
That point is worlds of difference, Justin.
Hey, here's a take for you. Is it safe to say that Penn State significant better quarterback situation than Ohio State?
Oh, they have a guy.
That's the take these days.
He's a real deal.
That's the take. I mean,
I'm taking the Illini.
I'm taking Penn State uncomfortably, but that point really scares me.
It's at home. Give me the points. I like this
Defensively,
defense.
they should be able to at least muck it up enough to give Illinois a shot. But can Illinois score?
Yeah.
right. I mean, it does scare you that it's a bit of a margins conversation like that. It slowly turns
Like
into
Penn State breaks 2 plays and this game's over.
Right.
It's the
Well,
CU Nebraska
it
combo
turns
all
into
over
CU
again.
Nebraska 100%. CU Nebraska, though, was played at CU.
It's true.
Give me the Illini. I'm
Let's
betting
go.
uncomfortably this week, guys. But anyways, I'm really intrigued by that matchup in the trenches down there. I mean, that really feels like a fun one. Then I have Kansas State at Mizzou here. Love that these old Big 8 squads are still playing against each other. There's some bad blood. It's another great matchup in the trenches here. It starts with Cooper Beebe of Kansas State going against Darius Robinson with Newton of Illinois, one of the other best defensive tackle prospects in the country. And we have number 15 K-State as a 4-point favorite on the road to Mizzou.
As a guy who's like always take K-State when they're underdogs, I really hate this position for them. Like getting the respect going on the road, it feels like classic letdown opportunity. And Missouri is one of those teams that they don't
frisky.
score, but they're frisky and
They're
they
frisky,
keep
dude.
it tight.
That being said, I'm going to take K-State. I'll lay the points as well. Wow. So I just think they're better.
I have K-State like 13 in my top 25,
There
so
you
I
go.
believe in them.
There you go.
I'll take K-State.
They're better. I'm taking them too. Let's do it. I love it when you guys talk me into something. I put Tennessee at Florida on here. I don't even know if that's
I don't care what the line is. Give me Tennessee.
It's -6.5 for the Vols.
Florida is not good.
I might try and buy that up and get it at plus money.
Florida's
Yeah.
not good.
I think after week 1, everyone was high on Joe Milton. I think he's kind of regressed week 2.
He is
It's
what
not
he
about my
is.
love for Tennessee. It's about how low I am on Florida.
He is what he is. Then you shouldn't be taking 6.5 points on the road, man. If Joe Milton is what he is.
What are we missing
But-
here? Tennessee did not look good last week.
The book doesn't trust the Vols.
I don't trust Florida.
No, Florida straight up stinks. Florida's awful.
I mean, I just think that
Napier's getting fired. I just
Oh, yeah,
I can
he
feel
is.
it in my bones.
absolutely. I mean,
Florida has covered the spread in each of its last 5 September games against Tennessee. 13 of Tennessee's last 15 games
Give me the
against
Vols.
non-AP ranked teams have gone over the total points line. I like the under.
give me the Vols. I don't care.
Oof, I hate this one. I hate this one.
I will take Florida to cover at home uncomfortably, and I hate it.
Here's what I'll tell you though. If you think the Gators have a shot, take the under 58.5.
Yeah.
If Tennessee doesn't dominate this game, the under hits like in its sleep.
I don't think Florida is going to score 20 points.
No,
so it's,
no, of
dude,
course. It's
yeah.
the Gators. They suck.
But is this Tennessee offense what it was? I think we'll find out this weekend.
I know. That's a tricky one. A couple other games I've found interesting on the slate. Florida State at BC, 26-point favorite. Last 2 times they went to Boston College, they won by a touchdown or less.
It's been a house of horrors for them,
Yeah.
going back to that like Adazio win.
and it's a letdown, right? Like they had their big win. I just
That's a lot to cover.
Noel's got to prove they're that like
BC looks
you truly
bad.
think they're a top 4 program. They looked bad. They have that UCF transfer at quarterback though. He's dual threat. He's frisky.
I'll take BC at home to cover,
Let's
but
go.
I'm taking the Knowles. I think this is one of the best offenses in the country.
I do too.
Score points. Taking them.
I will say this is a game where I think Florida State can kind of like define them. So like if you come out and you just roll them by 60, then it's all right. This isn't the same old Florida State that, you know, last couple of years we get kind of high on them. They have this talent and then they
That's
lose
what
2
I'm
out of 3.
saying.
They put up 66 last week. I know it's Southern Miss, but 66.
Well, and after what they did against LSU, where
LSU
they
as
just
well.
looked unstoppable.
They're going to score points.
I'm with Dre though. I think it's trap game.
I don't care.
The trap game. We're leaning into the trap this weekend.
BC, it's trap time. Obviously, a little slim pickings on the picks this week. Next week,
What a slate.
all-timer. Cannot wait. You'll want to tune into that one. Tune in every week. We're doing this every Thursday, right around the same time here after the Buffs pod. Thank you for tuning in. We'll be back next week. Best of luck on all your picks. Enjoy the showdown. Go Broncos. Thank you, J-Mike. Thank you, Schwan, man. Check out all these guys' stuff. It's outstanding. You want more of my picks? Check out the daily, shorter DNVR bets daily videos we are doing. We are out. Great Thursday to you all.